It is regarding our marketing firm that we're considering to hire, Marion Carson Holdings. Ms. Kakish.
So after a long process to select marketing firm that would meet our needs based on priorities of the board to market our district and create an identity, we have engaged the communication committee, which 2 board members serve on that committee. I think it changed over the years because we've started this last year, so 3 board members have actually had the chance to give input on the process. So Justin Grayson, our Director of Communication, have led that effort, and we're both here to answer any questions, but I'd like to also open it up for our board members that served on that committee to start us off with any feedback regarding the consultant and the agreement before you.
You want us to comment before Mr. Grayson?
Yeah.
Did you want to start, Patricia? Or you?
Well, you were on such a roll.
Oh. They all left. I think they're mad. Yeah. I mean, I could offer some brief insight. I mean, I think it was a very systematized process. We started off with a number of firms that were paper screened, I assume, by staff, all with amazing credentials, great, portfolios of work, and professional presentations. Some locally here in Southern California, all with the presence here in Southern California. And I think they all had some unique ideas in which they could fill the needs that we're looking to in terms of developing a more cohesive brand, to better tell our story, to help drive enrollment so we can get an ROI on this investment. So they were all given the opportunity with some guidelines from Justin and his staff, and that process went from 5 people down to 3 finalists, and they were given more specific proposals to provide to staff, and then they presented on those 3 proposals. And I think any of the 3 could have produced a product that would have been what we were looking for, but I think with staff's recommendation, there was one clear winner in terms of how those presentations were done, and I would say they won both presentations, both days, with some really unique value propositions. So I think that staff's recommendation on Marion Carson is a good one, and I think Patricia would agree, but feel free to chime in.
And I thank you, Mr. Lee. I think what was clear from Marion Carson was their ability to be transformative in their placemaking, which for those of you that aren't familiar with that term means giving an identity to a place and making it be interesting and attractive and people want to be there. And they had presented some very compelling case studies that they had did elsewhere that were very much gave an identity to a place, and I really liked that, because I think we all know what a fantastic identity we have here at RUSD, but the story doesn't get out as much. And the other firms, I think, perhaps Mr. Lee can weigh in on this, but I thought they were technically very good and they could do what they needed to do, but Marion Carson really brought more of a transformative quality. That's all I can use for that. And they just had, I think, I've instilled more confidence in me about their ability to pull it off.
Yeah, I was going to say, that just reminded me, 2 more points was one, we also, I think, at least the lens I was looking at it through as well, was personalities. They're all professionals. They all had the ability to do the job, but being able to work with them on a daily basis on something, I think that was considered, like, are they a good fit for our district, and do they understand our objectives? And I think this firm does. And the other thing was their admission that they had never worked with a K-12 district before, which a lot of the firms hadn't, because this is pretty unique, what we're doing in itself. But their enthusiasm in which they wanted to participate, almost like, I don't want to sound like it's belittling, but like this was like a pet project for them. Like, we know we can make this work. We know your budget's really not what it should be, but we're willing to take it on. Like, this is something that we think could be a feather in our cap, and they could tout the successes that they have with us to other districts and increase their revenue, you know, help other districts do what they did. So that was it.
Thank you, Trustee Lee and Trustee Lock-Dawson. Trustee Hunt.
Yes, and thank you to the committee and the staff for their work on this. Very interesting. I want to go back to the ROI. This is a net 500 students this needs to produce to break even, which is great to break even. But so give me an idea how we're going to get 500. And I'm willing to also consider some of that we're not going to have attrition, that we're not going to lose more to some of the charters and all that. So, but tell me how we're going to make an ROI on this.
So by increasing enrollment
I
really
understand, yeah.
is
But,
going.
well, I understand, I'm sorry, I should have worded that better, Ms. McKeish. What is their intent, what is their battle plan or your battle plan to make sure we're going to increase enrollment? What is the theme here that I don't understand from the contract? I don't have a presentation. So what is the theme that they're going to be able to attract people to RUSD at 500?
Yeah, you could, I'm going to let Justin jump
Sure,
in on to
thanks.
answer it, but I want to just correct the math just quickly. We've lost about 1,000 students, and that was $10 million. So we really are anticipating.
Oh, it's 50, isn't it? You're right, I'm sorry.
Yes, so I believe.
I was
that
an
it's-
English major, so, yeah.
So I believe it's an achievable goal
Okay.
to at least break even, but we're not targeting break even. We're targeting actually to increase enrollment to a level where we're actually creating revenue. So I just wanted to mention that, but I think
sorry,
Justin
yeah.
has more detail about how we can approach it.
Yeah, I know, I realize that now. It's 10 o'clock.
Sure. So thanks for the question. So we actually we met earlier today, although the contract hasn't fully been approved yet. We met earlier today to sit down and kind of just give them an overall sense of where we are as a district. We had representatives from our facilities department. We had representatives from pupil services. We had communications department was there, of course. Just to talk about where students are going, why they're leaving us, and things like that. So in terms of our timeline, we're actually going to spend the first few months just in strategy mode. When they proposed, when they kind of submitted their proposal and presented to us, it wasn't necessarily, here's exactly what we plan to do. A lot of marketing firms don't want to do that because it'd be like giving us their work, and then we could say, yeah, thanks, but no thanks, and then we could take it on. So they presented to us their capabilities. They presented their case studies of things that they've already done. We loved their capabilities, and then they gave us a timeline of action, how they would go about the process. So what it looks like right now is we would spend the next, I would say, 2 months strategizing, right? They're going to give us a whole plan on what the next year and a half looks like. And so one of the things we talked about today was what the enrollment windows look like. So the enrollment window that goes from November to January, we kind of will backwards map that and then say that the best time for hard-hitting marketing, and we're talking social media, videos and social media campaigns and maybe even possibly TV commercials and things like that, you kind of look at when you want people to be really thinking about RUSD right around the time right before the enrollment window opens. However, before that, and so I'm really talking in 2020, so we are going to do work this year, starting this year, but in the summer of 2020, there will be things happening, right? We want to stay in the psyche of all of Riverside's residents and also people outside of Riverside. So there will be actions happening throughout the year, but then there will be kind of what I'm just going to call formally like a hard-hitting window that will hit right before the enrollment windows. So they are under the understanding that work starts now, but it is strategy and research phase, which they did that was in their proposal. And then once strategy and research is done, they will give us another kind of secondary proposal of what the actual campaign looks like and like what the things that we'll be able to feel and tangibly see.
And what do you think, Mr. Grayson? Thank you for that.
Sure.
We have a limited amount of, you talked about television, but we really don't have television
Sure.
here, unless it's LA stations, and that's pretty expensive. Our newspaper's different dynamic
Yep.
now. We certainly have online, that everybody has it, but do you have an idea of what group you're going after? Are you, rifle shot? Are you looking at just throwing everything out there, like spreading the seeds? I mean, is it
Yeah, so I'll answer
sowing the seed?
the first part of it. One of the individuals that was here today, and unfortunately I did leave early, but she is their, like, kind of their media buying professional. So that she understands, she does all the research that says, where are your customers and how are they consuming media? So there could be a play. I mean, we all watch local television, and there are local Riverside commercials that will play while you're watching a national television show, right? So that could be something that they say, hey, that's your demographic. They love to watch American Idol. Let's put a commercial during American Idol. I'm not saying that that's a heavy possibility, but that's what the research that they'll do. And then from there, the second part of your question. Sorry, was it?
It's late, I don't recall. No, it was, what do you were talking, I was saying, is it a rifle shot?
Right,
Are you going
yes.
to decide that? I mean, are you going to go, are you going to go
So-
after the arts group that we've lost? I mean, we know we can't do anything about the birth rates, so
So
are we looking at excuse me, I'm sorry, but inter-district transfer, or what is it, what is your thoughts early on, or the committee's thoughts?
We've targeted a few different categories. There are the group of people who live outside of Riverside who we want to feel strongly about the district and the city of Riverside to come here. There's also the group of people who live in Riverside who we don't want to lose. And so we need to instill and build pride in the schools that we have and the programs that we have in the district, so that they don't say, I heard Corona's doing some great things, let's look into what schools they have there or the other surrounding districts. And the third group is, ironically, it's families of newborns, families of like literally families who are thinking about having children, or families of people who don't have kindergartners or preschoolers yet, and to make sure that that's almost like acquiring a customer for life. And we got to look at how do we get those families before they even start. Now, obviously, that's a long time before you start to see that result, but we need to start somewhere.
Thank you for your answers, very good.
Sure.
Trustee Alavi.
So maybe I'm missing something here, because I just learned more about this in your last few comments than I could possibly get from what we have in here. There's nothing about the actual proposal. So I'm counting on my fellow board members on this committee to say this is really good. This is the second thing we've just now hired, because we just also hired an attendance consultant who hopefully will do the same thing that these people are doing.
So they are different contracts. Attendance is targeted our parents currently in the district to have their students show up to our district on an everyday basis.
Yeah, I know what attendance is,
No,
but
I
I'm
mean-
saying the idea is to increase our students coming.
Correct. So it's increasing the attendance of the students that are currently enrolled. This one is marketing to increase enrollment on,
Well,
yeah.
I hope it's good. Did we pay for them to come down today? Because apparently we're paying for all of their travel.
That's very typical in consulting contracts.
Well,
We pay for travel for
I
all
hope
of
it's
them.
good. I don't know. There's nothing I have in here or have heard or have seen that I would have any way to judge if this is good.
So your sentiment is accurate, Mrs. Alavi. I mean, it is a leap of faith. It's something that's not necessarily being done in school districts. It is something that we are approaching on to, and we believe, because research says that marketing does work. Intention on marketing yourself and branding yourself does work. And so off of that research base, if you hire the right partner, that will yield results. And so we looked into their products and how they've approached other partners, and that's how we gauged how we would select this partner. We have limited resources, and as Mr. Lee mentioned, their idea might be way beyond what we can afford, but we have also looked that they can actually scale it to something that we can afford and still yield the results. So I can totally understand the discomfort, because it is a leap of faith. The only thing that I can comfort you with is that it is research-based, that marketing works. That's how any business does their approach to how to create their branding and then market their branding. Through a previous consultant and previous report, we've learned that our parents don't know enough about our districts and what the district has to offer. And so with that in mind, we approached the board for that authorization. So the budget has been sitting stagnant and we're carrying it over for this year. That exhibit has been changed to not to exceed 400,000, not 500. And any additional dollars to the 400 will be with our authorization. It won't be exceed without having to convene the communication committee and they buy into whatever the proposal for the increase. So for now, we're limited to the dollars that is in the budget, but I totally understand that.
I just wish there was more than just a 4-page contract for me to look at, which says nothing about what they're actually going to accomplish.
Can I weigh in on some of the discussion we had too? Mr. Grayson,
I
go
was just
ahead.
going to say that we can also share with you their actual proposal, if that would help. There's a pretty thick proposal with a timeline, with the budget, with some of their case studies, with the credentials of their entire team. I can share that with you. And also, just to answer one of the other questions that you asked, we do have proof from other school districts who have done. When we say that this is cutting edge and not being done, we're saying that basically very few school districts in the country have taken this approach, but when they do, it works. And the one that we usually reference and that we've spent some time talking to is Austin Unified School District, whose contract was for $800,000 over 2 years, and they saw a pretty major spike. I don't know the exact numbers, but they saw a major spike in exactly what we were trying to do, which is increase enrollment. Obviously, you have to plateau it at some point, and then after the plateau, they saw the spike. And so Austin is kind of who inspired us, and we spent some time in conference calls and meeting them at the national school PR conferences and talking about specific.
So I have to concur with my colleague, Trustee Alavi. I don't think the question is whether or not, the fact that there isn't a lot of precedence for this and that you guys are trying to figure that out, or the question is whether this firm is the right one. I think it's the manner of the way it's being presented to us as a board.
Could we discuss what we discussed about finances? Because we did at the board. These were a lot of the things we brought up in committee.
All I'm saying is, we can share that, but I think it should have been formally presented, like the proposal you're mentioning. I would like to physically have seen that proposal, and I'm referring more to that aspect. I'm not referring to the arguments or the ways that this is justified. It's more about the manner in that we're trying to consider this. And Trustee Hunt, you wanted to.
I was on the original committee that started this. I completely believe in marketing. I think it's important. I've talked about, but what I'm leading to is I know that, and my neighbor got her doctorate on this, and I keep bringing this up, but is that Hispanics, especially English language learner parent Hispanics, don't have access to a lot of things we're talking about. They get it and they understand it through direct mail. So Coca-Cola is just a sugary brown drink, but it's marketed by Saving the World. But I don't know what is being proposed, and I think Mrs. Alavi's point, it's nothing against the staff. I think you've probably done a great job, but I think this board, who just cut 11 million and laid off people and did all that stuff, needs a little bit more tangible information. So I would ask, if proper, that to table this, and if I get a second, that's not debatable, to table this until a meeting that Dr. Farouk and Dr. Hansen, and actually it'll be the next meeting, if that won't lose the contract, but I'm sure you can negotiate that. But I would move to table this until the next regular meeting or appropriate meeting of the board.
Do we have a second? Trustee Alavi?
I don't understand the purpose of tabling it. What are we tabling it for?
We're tabling it so when they come, sorry, Ms. Alavi, I should explain that better.
So they're coming back to give us a
To have them come back, whether we pay their fee or not to come back, but
So we
have a
can hear
real
what they wanna
presentation,
do.
and that with all respect to our staff who we trust, than just a contract for me to approve. I'd like to see what their ideas are. I'd like to see, with all respect to my colleagues that were there, and I thank them, what the communications committee saw that says, let's bring these people forward. That's what I'm asking the table for.
What else do you need to hear, Mr. Hunt? I thought I did explain that. It's fine if we bring it back. I'm going to vote against that, but
That's fine.
we just passed our LCAP recommendation, which allocated these $400,000 funds. So, we already We already debated that. So now it's just a question about who are we going to
Well,
give
let me
those
answer your
funds to?
question, Mr. Lee. You asked me what else I need to hear. With all respect to you, sir, I need to hear from the consultant that wants to get $500,000 from this district. I want to hear what they're going to do. And I think we all five need to hear that. We're going to spend that kind of money on something very important, something I support, but I want to hear it from them and not just have a contract. I don't know what else we've ever done in my time on the board when we just get a contract and there's no presentation. Dr. Perez gave us a presentation on an entire, very important matter. I'm just asking for the same considerations. But if I don't have a second, then it's fine.
May I add to this, just also for information? Most contracts don't come to the board. We actually hire architects and they design and they do things, and it comes before you when it's ready for you to give feedback on. Similar to that, we will be handling this contract in that same fashion. Our staff, with input from board members to the communication committee, will give guidance to the contractor to actually put a plan together. Once the plan is ready, we were planning on a study session to whether that plan is going to yield what you believe is the right return on investment. The plan is not what we expected. We could go back to the drawing board, just like we do with the architects. Again, the architects, we select from them, they design a school, they start the process, it comes to you for review, and then you give feedback. You change the whole school and put it upside down, that's within your prerogative to do as a decision maker. Same with the plan. Once the plan is put in place, it is put in a position where it could get your feedback. We hope that we never waste your time when we come to you with a plan that's not ready for your review. We believe that with the staff and the communication committee, we'll be able to sit with the consultant and put a plan for the marketing of our district within the next year and 2 months, really, to how we will address marketing. So it's I'm just trying to just bring some facts to the board. It's very similar to a lot of contracts that we do within our district where we hire the contract, but this one was high profile. And the reason why it's before you today, it's because of the high profile of the marketing initiative as a district, and it's a priority of the board. We wanted to make sure that we don't go a step with the selection without making sure that you're aware of who we're recognizing. So I just wanted you to have that.
I think what the concern, at least as far as I'm concerned, is, as Trustee Alavi mentioned earlier, with the financial stabilization, everything that's going on, when we're spending money, it's a sensitive issue. Obviously, we're all supportive of doing this in general. I don't think there's any question. We've already discussed that, and whether it's the attendance thing or this thing. But to not even share the proposal that they submitted to us and with no presentation, that's the part where I'm puzzled. And then if we paid for her to fly down, because initially I was told we were going to move this up to the front of the agenda. I just don't understand. We paid to fly her down. We didn't get a copy of the proposal. We didn't get a chance to directly. She spoke in public comments. That's the part where I'm just confused
and
about.
I'm trying to clarify that step, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, and you can make any decision you want. You want to table it, we're okay. I'm trying to just give you more information. The proposal is about them selling themselves of what they did to other districts, what they did to other entities, municipalities, cities, selling California as a whole. The proposal is not what they're going to do exactly for Riverside. The proposal is about their credibility of the experience that they bring with them to put a plan for Riverside. So that is to just comfort you. We didn't receive a proposal exactly for Riverside yet. We have to engage someone, put them on a contract in order for them to have the creative thinking for them to put a plan together. So we're not there yet. It's just like, again, I'm just trying to give you another point of reference. Exactly like an architect, an RFQ for an architect. We do an RFQ, we had them bring their credibility, their credentials, all of that. What did they do before? What kind of stadiums, what kind of schools? They bring that. They haven't put a proposal for us. We select them, we put them on a contract, and then we bring you whatever plan works for us as a district, and you decide on it.
Okay.
It's very, very similar to that.
Trustee Dawson.
Thank you. That was my point. It was much like an RFQ where they told us what they could do. When a consultant responds to these things, they don't provide specifics. They tell you what they can. Much of the conversation we had, Mrs. Alavi, was similar to what the things you brought up, which I don't know why that wasn't brought out. But the concern Mr. Lee and I had was specifically the question, what is the ROI? How can we ensure that we have an ROI? is there a way when you negotiate the contract, Mrs. Kakish, that you can put something in there that has them, that if they don't deliver, they don't get all their money, or there's a portion of it that's withheld? I mean, there was a lot of that went on in this. And this isn't a criticism, but we are after 10 o'clock. It's never good to be doing this. We are meeting at 3:30 so that we can get out of here earlier, and this disintegrates every time we go late. So I would recommend that we approve it. I would move approval. I would put a motion out there to move approval.
Okay, so there is no second for, because I want to first address
There was no
trustee
second.
Hunt's, huh?
Second, I still have a comment.
Okay, sure, please.
I don't know if I'm up or not.
I was gonna say the same thing that Patricia did, basically, was there was no A, B, C, D, this is what I'm gonna do, and, X, Y, Z equals 1,000 students. It was, as both have outlined, this is what we've done before, this is an example of the work. Here are some general big picture ideas in which we could do, but we don't know if these things are appropriate. They had mentioned doing research. Patricia and I and staff shared that we already spent a bunch of money on research, and they would want to look at that research in which to then give us a marketing proposal in which we could drive some of our objectives. So the proposal, which I think we should probably share with the whole board so they can see the caliber and see what we saw and why we thought they'd be a good fit for our district, is going to share that. Just to be clear, don't expect that you're going to see they're going to do this much on social media and they're going to buy this much in this newspaper, because it doesn't say that.
And to Mr. Lee's point on it, I just want to piggyback. Your point about that we already had hired a consultant for some of this stuff, they had said they were going to come in as part of their RFQ, that they were going to collect all these data. And we said, hey, wait a minute, we already have these data. And they said, oh, well, then we'll just knock that off the proposal. So, I mean, there was a lot of that kind of discussion that went on. So they're going to use the data we already have and build and leverage what consultants we've already had in place.
Trustee Hunt?
As I think I've said for 10, 12 years now, that I trust the committee system. I fought for the committee system. I believe in the committee system. But most things don't come out of a committee. Mr. Lee and I, my committee, and we say, here's what we ought to do at Fremont, and by the way, that's what we're doing, and there's a contract to Tilden Co. to go do it. So I'm a little concerned about the way we're doing this, that we don't have, the other three of us weren't given all of this. And though I do trust you completely, and I'm willing to vote for it if we lose it, but I don't think this is the right way. I agree. It insulted me a little bit that she comes down, we're supposed to move this thing up, and we're going to hear her, and she was kind of like, hey, we're a great little firm, we'll see you later, I got a plane to catch. I just don't think that's the way we're supposed to be doing business. I have every confidence in you, Mr. Grayson and Ms. Kakish, and I know Dr. Hanson looked in this. I have every confidence in my colleagues. I just don't like the way the process is, and doesn't matter if, that's why we moved it up. We don't get the hearing of it. So that's my concern, is more the procedure. I'm sure it's going to be great. I got my math wrong earlier. We do need to be marketing. We're in a competitive business, and there's other county-approved charters that can come in, so we've got to do that. If Orange County School of the Arts comes in over here with RCC, that's going to make a difference. So we need to do these things. I just don't like the procedure we went at when we were told we were going to move it up to here, your consultant. So that's my concern.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Hunt. I completely agree 100% with your sentiments. Now procedurally, we had a motion by Trustee
Second.
Hunt. It sounds.
Second.
Huh? You made it first. I want to know if there's going to be a second. Well, I'm asking it. You're saying, you're willing to second?
I'm seconding Patricia's. No one
Okay,
seconded
so
Mr.
nobody's
Hunt's.
seconding
That was
Trustee
10 minutes
Hunt's.
ago.
Okay, the motion is dead. Trustee Locke Dawson made a motion. You're seconding Trustee Locke Dawson's. That means we're going to vote on that. So please vote. Okay, motion carries 4-1. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And please take our feedback to heart in the future. It's
We-
not
we-
out of
We will
disrespect
schedule a
to any
study
of you.
session as a follow-up once we have an outline for the plan. There will be a study session for this.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, are there any agenda items for future meetings?
Yes.
Okay, Trustee Alvey.
I think we have to take a look, and I don't know whether or not it's going to be at a meeting or at a study session, but we need to talk about this football CIF problem, because this is only going to get worse if you've got a CIF program that isn't really taking schools' desires into account. And I don't know enough about it to know what our steps might be, but I know that we've got to do. I already worry about football anyway, and then you put our teams against teams like Centennial, that makes me just scared to death. So I think I'd like to put that on a future agenda.
And I would ask the same. I've been saying this ever since I came in. I've talked to, it amazes me that board members in Corona Norco kind of giggle about it. They think it's funny. But Centennial is a powerhouse. They're built to be a football school. They have the apartments around them. And we have to think about, we've had two young men. One of them died. One of them, thank God, didn't. Thank you, man. One of them was able to come out, but he's had a lot of problems. Football, as that gentleman said, is a collision sport. The way the CIF does it is at a third world country of an oligarch, and it's wrong that they wanted to do that. I'm not going to blame our principals, whatever, Dr. Hanson, they didn't lobby, whatever the gentleman said. But if there is before we have this hearing, Mrs. Allaby, if there is a process.
Trustee Hanna, I respectfully say.
If there is a process that we can appeal, I hope we move forward quickly.
Okay, we will consider that for the future. This will be agendized. Unless there's anybody else that would like to. Okay, well, administratively, we will follow up on that. I assure you, it's out of respect for the sensitivity of this. We just don't want to deliberate on it now. So, meeting adjourned, 10:13 p.m.